All right, I need to stop hemming and hawing about where this video is going to start. Otherwise, I'm never going to start talking. Um, as per usual, this one's a little different. No, it's more of I don't really know what I'm going to talk about. I've been having a lot of thoughts, as I'm prone to do, and I get waves of inspiration where I have like a thought that I find really interesting. It is thought-provoking or conversation starting at least. And it comes to me and I ruminate on it, and then it kind of passes by, and the excitement or energy behind that thought process kind of goes away because I've lost that initial spark, and I don't really feel like I have the right frame of mind to be able to talk about it. Which is weird because I feel like in order to talk about topics, sometimes you almost have to be in a darker place, in a more emotional place. You have to be mentally tapped into that, I guess, part of your brain in order to really connect with it and feel like you're making connections or able to speak from a genuine point. At least that's how I usually feel. I know I've started this way. I started this video in a very rambly way. Maybe we should back up just a second. So, hi everybody, I'm Taylor. I'm Sheepish of the Sheepish Goat channel you're watching. Nice to see you. Normally we do art-related videos here, but a lot of times we do introspection, mingled in with art or on its own, and today it's probably on its own. I haven't made a video on this channel for just a little bit, and there's a few reasons for that. Maybe I'll get into that to start with. Maybe that's more interesting. So I have a secondary channel where I make videos for interviewing people, where I tell other people's stories. I don't focus really on myself. I just want to share what they've been through because I find it very interesting. I find people really interesting, which is really interesting, which is really fun when I kind of think about it, because there was a period in my life where I didn't want to be around people. I didn't really want to socialize with people, and a lot of that I think was due to the fact that I was working in technical support. I had my own mental issues and struggles, so see some of my introspection videos, or specifically my mental health video if you're curious on that thought process or where some of the background of today's conversation might originate from. But to the point, I was in technical support for a while, and there's a lot of dealing with people's problems and then them not being appreciative of your time and energy that you're putting into it. So yeah, I even have a jacket that sits on the chair in my office that says "I hate people." I don't think I ever wore it outside, but it gave me solace to know that I always had my back. But no, I am genuinely interested in people, and more specifically, the human condition, I guess. Why people do the things that they do, why I do the things that I do or don't do certain things, right? And I find it interesting, and I hope a lot of people find it interesting, because the more I learn about people, the more I look at them and kind of get out for myself, which is important. And it feels like it's helped me grow a lot as a person. But the more that I do that, the more I find that a lot of people don't really maybe think the same way I do, or they're not as reflective. They don't hold up a mirror to themselves or their lives, or think about why they are or aren't doing something. They might have a gut reaction and then turn away from it. That's not to say I don't do that, but I often then try to hold myself accountable to move forward through that process, because it is very important. In terms of growth. Now, I guess back on track here. I haven't made a video on here in just a little bit, and there's a few reasons for that. One, I always want to feel like I'm doing something new and interesting. I don't like to tread new ground all the time, although I do understand that it has its place, and I do think, for example, my quick draw series, I still find it fun to make those, even if they don't get crazy views and they're not original every time. I still think they are fun and they still have value. So for my own self, that's something I have to come to terms with. It doesn't have to be different every time. I don't always have to do something new and interesting to catch your attention, I suppose. But I've also just been feeling a lack of excitement in terms of wanting to draw or make art, for that matter. It hasn't interested me. In fact, it's been heavy. It hasn't been something that I've been excited about, that I've wanted to do. I've given myself time away from it. I've given myself a couple weeks to not even draw, to not really do anything related to art. I focused on my grandpa's videos. With reason, I wanted to get some new videos on that channel because I had moved them from here to have its own separate secondary channel. And I wanted to have a few new videos on there so that it wasn't just retreading the ground, as I said, that I had already been through. I wanted something fresh on there. So I have 2 videos on there now. And that was intentional and also an excuse for myself, if I'm being completely honest, because I haven't felt engaged to make art. And there's a few reasons, I think, for that. A few reasons that I haven't even wrapped my head entirely around so far. But perhaps we'll figure it out during this video. Let's do a coffee sip. Yeah. So why? Why haven't I wanted to make anything? Why haven't I wanted to draw? Well, the last thing that I was drawing, and perhaps I'll show some progress shots here. Here's another thought. I had thought about making a video about this art piece that I had been making, and sort of scrapping the art piece entirely and saying, here's a learning curve, or here's the reason why I tried to make this. Here's the reason why it was a bad idea. And here's what I'm doing about it. I thought about using it as a way to better myself, but there's a few things as far as layers that go into that. So I was making this art piece, and I think I'm going to still make it, but it's a realism challenge where I decided to make a poster, basically, of a movie I enjoyed, and I chose the movie Clue. And I did some portraits. The problem is that there's so many main cast. There's like 7 characters at least, and each of them has to have a face. So it's a lot of time spent on making those individual portraits. And again, it's realism. It's not in my main preferred style. It's not stylized. You're trying to capture the exact likeness, and to me, that takes out some of the fun. It takes out some of the creativity, and it takes out the spark of interest for me. Sorry if you hear my cat. He's been sleeping, and I think he just woke up. But it's not as exciting for me. So I think that's why I wasn't engaged by it. I felt like I was making myself do it because it felt like I was trying to prove something to myself that I could still make those type of pieces. I wanted to have something different on the channel that didn't feel like my other art, to hopefully show that I was capable of doing other things, perhaps garner more interest again. But it wasn't coming from an authentic place. It wasn't coming from like, I want to do this because I really want to make the piece about Clue. And when I first had the idea of making it about Clue, I got excited and I was like, oh yeah, I love that movie. So it had initial fun excitement to it, but it kind of lost that. I got stuck in the weeds of trying to make it realistic, and it just gets boring after a while for me, because it's just color matching. Basically, I'm just duplicating this thing that already exists, and it's not as exciting. So it turned me off from the idea of making that. And I have other projects that I've started. I have many other projects that I've started in the background that you haven't seen. And I just didn't feel like doing any of those. I just didn't feel like making anything. But I feel like I have to make something. I have to have content on this channel, which in and of itself is a gross idea. Nobody wants to just make things to feel like you have to make them. You don't want to be a factory. In fact, when I was a kid, the reason for a long time that I turned away from wanting to do anything related to art in a professional sense, and is also the reason why I don't really like doing commissioned pieces, is because I didn't want it to feel like work. I almost said I didn't want it to feel like art. No, I want it to feel like art. That's exactly what I'm after. I don't want it to feel like work. I don't want it to feel like something that I have to make. In high school, I was in an AP art class, and in that class, there were a lot of freedoms. I could kind of make whatever I want, but you had to kind of construct a portfolio, and you had to make, I don't remember if it was a certain amount of pieces per the entire year that were in a theme, or if it was specifically just like every week you had to have a piece done. I can't remember how that worked, but there was more of a time crunch to that. So I had the freedom to make things that I wanted to make. I wasn't structured to making the same thing that the rest of the class was making in a traditional art class. I had this timeline and I had this pressure of making something that wasn't just for me, that wasn't part of the learning curriculum. It was strictly like a job at that point. And I knew immediately that I didn't care for it. I knew immediately that putting that pressure onto that thing and making it feel like work, having to deliver this core of myself, right? I mean, art is emotion. Perhaps more art is emotional than others. It's all objective, right? But it's an expression of who you are. So inherently it is emotion. And having to deliver emotion in a mechanical, regimented way felt really wrong to me. It was trying to streamline or rush that process in something that was supposed to be loose and freeform and creative. And I knew that I didn't like it. So that's one reason I don't like doing commissions for that example, because it feels like I'm just doing something because I'm trying to get money from it as opposed to doing something because I really enjoy doing it. So yeah, it's a weird struggle in me having a channel that's about art, because I do my best to try to make it feel like it's from who I am, what I care about. And in doing that, it might take longer to make things because I need to do it when the mood arises. I need to do it when the energy truly hits me, or else it's not being authentic, or else it feels like work and it feels like it's taking away the joy from the thing that I actually really love and care about. Which is weird because, like, in hearing me say that, right, it kind of like, oh, I sound like an artist. But it's funny because I never consider myself an artist, because I can't put out pieces fast enough, because I don't know. I guess I don't make many things that impress me, if that makes sense, right? It's like, yeah, I know I can make that. And when it's done, it's like, yeah, I was there for the whole process. I'm no better than that guy, though. Look at that guy. He's doing awesome. He's an artist. Internal struggles, right? We all have our comparisons and our points of lacking. But, further to the point is I didn't want to make art, and I still don't really feel like making art. I want to do other things. I don't like being known for one thing. I like to show everything that I can do. And I think it's easy to feel like you're placed in a box. Even if you're the one putting yourself there, which frankly, I know that I'm doing. People come to expect something of you, and then you want to provide that same thing. So you kind of keep doing the same thing forever. And it gets tedious and it gets boring and it's not exciting. And you need excitement. You need engagement. You need something more. I had the thought earlier, which is why I wanted to make this video and just sit down and talk, is because I had the thought in the shower, where all the best thoughts happen. But I had the thought in the shower of, am I just chasing the idea of who I used to be? That's a heavy thought. It's a really heavy thought. Am I just chasing the idea of who I used to be? Am I trying to get back to this idea of who I thought I was? Does that person exist? And is that who I'm actually supposed to be? I don't have the answer to that question. In trying to figure out what video I was going to make this week, I was looking through old footage. And I have some old footage of projects that I was going to make, because I thought about making a YouTube channel for a very long time, and I have old footage. And I have this old footage, and I was looking through projects, thinking maybe I'll make a video for one of these. And to that extent, I still may do that. I think at some point I will, because it's worth delivering those ideas, even in an unfinished state. I think it's valuable. But I was rewatching that footage, and some of the things I'm trying to do today are the same things that I guess failed to do years ago. And, failure is a variable thought, right? Everybody has their own definition of what that means, but the art projects, the things that I cared about, I either didn't do them because I was too afraid, or I didn't finish them because I got stressed out and frustrated with where I thought my abilities were at. And, I have the evidence of those, which I'm happy with. I'm happy that I'm able to look back on those and see value and see a change. But is all that I'm trying to do is just fix that version of me? It's a sobering thought when you think about it. I think it's easy, and again, see some of my other introspections or my mental health video, to have a better framework of who I am. But it's easy to get lost in your life. It's easy to lose sight of happiness. It's easy to lose sight of what you care about, of who you are. You're going to get stuck in your job. You're going to get stuck in relationships. You're going to get stuck in your life. And I don't mean stuck necessarily as negative. I really don't. I mean it from the standpoint of it will consume you. And perhaps that's what you want, at least at first. But you might lose sight of who you are. You might be living to get through the day. You might be living to get through the week. You might be living to just get to your next vacation, or to when you retire in 5 years, 10 years, 20 years. You're waiting for that moment because at some point, for me, and hopefully, well, not hopefully for you, but there's a good chance for you. Because at some point you had to stop. You had to stop being you. And maybe that wasn't on purpose. And maybe for you that was a good thing. Maybe you didn't like who you used to be and you've changed and you're better now. But I know for me, there was a point where I was somebody. Maybe saying I was somebody is a weird thought. Maybe that implies that I was somebody special or unique. That's not what I'm trying to say. But I was somebody different. Let's say that. And then shit happens. And then I was somebody else. And there were gray areas. And I went past that somebody else and I got in a really dark place. And for the last year, I've been digging myself out of that hole. And I've been trying to be happy and be a better me, to find who I am, to do the things that I care about. But again, that question arose, am I just trying to get back to the old person that I used to be? Because do I want to be that person? I have this idealized sense of like, yeah, that was me. Those are the things that I care about. I still care about those things. I wish I was like happy like that again. I wish I didn't care what people thought anymore. I wish life was easier. I didn't have to worry about money, a job, that I had love in my life. It's a lot of heavy thoughts. And none of those things are bad. In fact, most of those things are really honest and good. They're good things to want, but does that past version of yourself, the version who might have had those things, is that the one you want to be? Or do you want to be somebody different? Because when I look back at me, when I look back at the videos I watched earlier, that me isn't happy. That me is still broken. He might be better off than I am now in some ways. But in some ways, I'm totally different. And that's good. I've grown past that. And that begs the question of what really matters to me now. Because I don't have to hold on to those things that mattered to me before. Even if I put myself in a box or somebody else did, just because it mattered to me before doesn't mean it has to matter to me now. You know, when I was a kid, I'm sure a lot of people can probably relate to this. When I was a kid, for Christmas, birthdays, whatever, I liked Batman. Yeah, I liked Batman. And I would get Batman stuff all the time. At some point, you don't want Batman stuff anymore. You know what I mean? Says the guy wearing the X-Men sweater. But I hope you understand. At some point, it doesn't matter to you anymore. Maybe you feel like you have to keep letting it matter, right? You have to feel like, I cared about this whole time, I can't just let it die. Like, it has nostalgia, it has sentimentality to it, but does it really matter to you? Those are two very different things. You know, where do you want to put your energy? Who do you want to be? What do you actually want to care about? Because even though it doesn't feel like you can, you have the ability to change that at any point. Perhaps that takes a conversation. Perhaps that it's you saying, hey, I don't want Batman stuff anymore. Quoth, stop. Shh. Stop it. Go away. Shh. Perhaps it's you saying you don't want Batman stuff anymore. Sorry for my cat. Perhaps it's you saying you don't want Batman stuff anymore. Maybe that feels awkward at first, right? Like, hey, I know you have the best of intentions. I know this is the thing that I did care about. But I just want you to know that I don't care about that anymore. I'm different now. And I know that you care and you didn't want to drown me in Batman stuff. This is a weird analogy. But I just want you to know that this is who I am now. And don't worry about me having an entire room full of Batman stuff. You did nothing wrong. But this is who I want to be. And that person should be accepting of that, whoever you're having that conversation with. And hopefully you're accepting of that. Because it can be hard to change. It can be hard to want to do something different. It can be hard to grow. So as I look at myself, and I try to think about why I don't want to make art, I still want to make art. I'm not going to give up on making art. But there's a reason why I didn't want to make it. And the reason is because I have other things pressing on me. I have other things that want to take priority. I have things that I've been avoiding. And it's impossible for me to want to move forward and think about making anything when I'm already upset. But I'm still depressed. But I'm still depressed. For me, The things that I've been pushing off are the things that matter more. Making videos, having the chance of a future and making videos for a living is extremely exciting. It's extremely promising, and it's something that I care about, but doesn't matter more than my happiness, because what I'm telling myself right now is that it does. And that's why I'm depressed. That's why I don't want to make art, because I know that I'm lying to myself. I know that what I'm trying to do is getting in the way of what I know I need to do. And for me, that's seeking companionship. I've been afraid of getting into a new relationship for a very long time. And it scares the hell out of me. You know, I've researched the best dating apps. I've downloaded some. I've started to fill out profiles, and I haven't finished it. And there's a few reasons. But really, it just comes down to me being scared. And I think it's easy to not be honest with yourself, or to be dismissive of your feelings when it comes to something like this, or anything that's really straining on you in your life, because you get to a point where you put in a lot of other people's feelings. You know, if you've been alone for a long time, my example, I'm sure you've had people who've said to you, why aren't you in a relationship? You've had people who have tried to twist your arm into asking someone out, try to speak up for you. If you were to tell them, hey, I'm extremely nervous and scared of being one, they either don't understand, or they might say that you just need to get over it. That's your problem. It's all in your head, man. You're really messed up. You just need to, get over it. Get out there. You're fine. I can tell you that's not very reassuring. And while it might be easy for some people, everybody struggles with their own things. It's funny because I'm really comfortable with being emotionally vulnerable, at least on camera. In my real life, I am as well. But when it comes to something like that, it scares me because it's not being emotionally vulnerable. It is. It's not the sharing that scares me. It's the rejection that scares me. And that's always been huge. Generally the people that I'm emotionally vulnerable to are the people that I know, the people that I care about, or someone that I feel that connection to. In this amorphous idea of dating, there is no person in your mind. There's no person you feel safe with. There's no one who you connect with and you know that it would be fine. So it feels like judgment. It feels like fear. It feels like getting hurt again. And when you're a person who's already working to try to be better, to improve yourself, you don't want to feel like you're stepping back down. You don't want to feel like you've got up from the ground and you're going to get punched in the face and knocked right back down when you've already put in a bunch of work. But there is a point where you have to say, it's time to move on. It's time to face your fear. I know it is for me. I've circled a day on my calendar for when I have to finish setting up my profiles. That's today. For reference. So, yeah. Life is weird. Yeah. It's messy and awkward and uncomfortable, and there's times where it's really good. It's weird to think that I can try to share something vulnerable like this with you, and I don't know if it's even going to translate on camera or that you'll care. But I want to share it because I hope that it's helpful for other people who might feel the same way. They don't know how to express it. They don't know how to share what they're feeling, or they don't know why they're feeling it. And I think being afraid is, I think it's pretty relatable. So, making art on the channel. Does this count as art? It's emotion, right? Is that all it takes? Maybe. I don't know. But I can tell you what. I'm ready for something new. And not out of desperation. Out of integrity. Knowing that I'm ready. Being able to support myself. It's a very different feeling than feeling needy. Feeling like you have to do something different. So I'm ready for a change. And hopefully that brings in a whole new wave of inspiration and creativity and honesty and support. And I hope you are too. Whatever you're struggling with, whatever you feel you need to move forward with, just think about it and just ask yourself, why aren't you doing it? Should you do it? Do you actually want to still do it? Or is that a past you? Is that the pressure of somebody else? Are you ready? Or do you need a little bit more time? Because that's okay too. So that's the video. I hope you enjoyed listening. But until next time, see you then. Now to set up my dating profile.